You're listening to the Perth Property Show, Australia's only weekly property podcast by West Australian experts for West Australian listeners. Catch your latest episode every Monday at 7 a.m.
Good morning, Western Australia. My name is Trent, your host of the Perth Property Show. Thank you for listening as always. And again, if you're looking to comment, have any questions answered, you can pop over to the Facebook page or website and we'll be able to answer those as quickly as possible. Now, today's topic is a little bit of a conceptual one. We are talking about what the characteristics are of a successful property investor. Now, we're going a bit left field today. I wanted to get Sam Carrello in, one of WA's top brokers. He spends a lot of his time in that, let's be frank, in that higher end of the market. Sam, you deal with a lot of the Western Suburbs clients, and therefore I think you have a real unique perspective in Western Australia where you get to deal with so many successful property investors or even just successful people who are therefore in that higher up echelon of property ownership.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we do a lot of work out in the Western Suburbs with a few of our referral partners out there. We've got a pretty big client base out that way as well. So you get to meet some really interesting people, some pretty impressive people as well.
So I thought most people aren't thinking of finance broker, right, when it comes to talking about the top end of town, right? And that's not to say that there aren't brokers who are doing very well in business, but you generally maybe think of talking to a business owner or whatnot. But I thought you have such a unique perspective because it's like I guess, same as an accountant in that sort of perspective where you've got that very niche clientele who are doing quite well, and you obviously get to see, as a broker does, their living expenses, their assets, their income. And we're not going to, name names today, but surely there's so many trends and characteristics you will identify every day in being able to work with these clients who I guess would have also taught you a few lessons in life.
Yeah, like I said, some pretty impressive people we get to deal with. So I guess in terms of characteristics that a lot of them will have, they're all very driven, quite analytical, especially when it comes to property investment. No emotion whatsoever. If they can't get the property for the price they want, which they've obviously run their numbers on, that's fine. It's like a bus.
Move on.
Next one will come along in 15 minutes. So
I think we could nearly finish the podcast here, right? That is the most important factor, I think, in any investment, not just in property. If you can't buy it for the price that you've determined you need to buy it for to make the profit that you think is worth your time and your risk, you move on.
Correct.
The person who needs a transaction the least is generally the one that wins that transaction.
The guys who have 4, 5, 6 properties and have turned them for good profits, that's exactly right. They've always got their eye on the market, so they're always looking, always researching. They know what things are worth, and if there's an opportunity there, they'll take it. But like I said, if that price is too high, see you later. Next one on the line.
One thing that I think is interesting that we spoke about before pressing play this morning is they're not all property developers, are they? And most of them aren't. They're professions in many other fields that simply have an interest or an inkling towards investing their hard-earned savings in this way.
Yeah, I'd say what they have in common is they're all very successful in what they do. Whether that be an engineer, a shop owner, a real estate agent, whatever they do, they are all successful and all have that drive. Property for them, it's about turning a profit. Obviously, everyone loves living in a nice home, and they've all got very nice homes.
Yeah.
But outside of that,
that's separate, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. So where you live is where you live, and then investment, it all comes down to that return. So I've got clients I've got one who's bought 4 or 5 little $160,000 apartments, central, and he's Airbnb-ing them out. I think proposed long-term weekly rent was about $150 a week. With these Airbnbs, he's making $800-900 a week.
And I guess a lot of these more successful property investors, not even being property people themselves, a lot of them, they've built up a team over time that they can trust. And in that team would be yourself, a broker, an accountant, tax advisor, lawyer, real estate agent, property managers. I guess in a lot of ways, if you can trust your experts to that level, you therefore can spend your hard-earned time with the things that you enjoy, like your family, and you might not ever even go out to these investment properties.
Correct. That's right. If you've got a good team around you who you can trust, last thing you want to be doing is mowing the lawn at your investment property down the road. The reason you want to make money is so you do have that better lifestyle and you can spend time on the important things, which is, for me, it's family and things like that, as it is for most of our clients.
Isn't it interesting though? And look, I'm a big believer in sweat equity at the start and building up that foundation from the start. So don't get me wrong, I'm not here to say that it's not worth it. But at some point in time, as you get to a point of success in investment, whether that's shares or property, you want to be able to leave it to the experts. You don't want to be mowing the lawn on Saturday because it builds up over time. You've got a number of investment properties and all you're doing is thinking about managing them. Or if you've got stocks, you're sitting on CommSec all day, clicking refresh. You farm that out to your stockbroker, right?
Correct.
At some point in time, when you get to that level of financial stability or freedom, whatever you want to call it, you need to then start cashing in on a lifestyle point of view and leave it to the expert.
Correct. Yeah, you got to reduce your responsibilities. I mean, that Airbnb example, my client, so 4 or 5 properties now. He has someone who runs it, so he manages all the bookings. I mean, he takes a clip for it, but he runs all the bookings. He's got a cleaner that goes in and cleans the properties. Everything is just done for him, and all he is doing is just picking up the cash on the side.
What we need to do from this point now is wind it back a little bit and figure out how those guys got to where they are today. And one thing that you mentioned to me, which I think is really poignant, that we maybe are losing a lot in society these days with technology, is they're all very active in their local community. Yeah. They really thrive on and enjoy, for the sake of it, the networking and the local sports clubs and the volunteering clubs. And as much as they might seem like distractions to some people, to a lot of them, that's the source of their information, of their wealth, of their networks, their clients.
Correct. It's an introduction. I think a good example there is a few of the real estate agents. If they've got kids at the local school, some of the very successful ones,
they keep having kids.
Yeah, well, that's it. They keep having kids and they keep picking up properties to sell. But I mean, that's a big one for quite a few of the real estate agents out there. But I mean, a couple of common characteristics that I would say in the successful people that we get to deal with is they're all very well driven. They're all hard workers. Doesn't just come. They've definitely put in the yards. And yeah, they have that team around them, or they have the contacts to be able to, not leverage, it's probably not the right word, but if you're a FIFO worker, finance might not be your strong suit. So trust your accountant, trust your mortgage broker to do the right thing, and you focus on what you want to be doing.
Even within technology, there are a number of investment groups on Facebook and meetups that you can join these days where, if you are in an industry that doesn't really suit those skill sets, you can start to invest in those networks and make friends or even get professional relationships where eventually you start to figure out from your personal skills who are the people that have the competencies that I can trust to really start building that team around me, so that when I am making $250,000 a year as a FIFO worker with a couple of rental properties, I'm not spending all my time home dealing with the maintenance. I never have to worry about it. I'm paying someone $5-10K a year to manage all these issues for me, so that when I am home, whether it's FIFO or a doctor or a lawyer or a business owner, shop owner, when you've gotten to that level, you can actually start to cash in on all that hard work and the risk you've taken, and that is the holidays. Sunday mornings watching the footy with the kids down the park, the barbecues, all those things. I think it's so easy for us these days to always have our eyes on the prize at whatever income level we're at and whatever success level we're at, and just forget to stop and smell the roses and realize why we're doing this, and then actually enjoy the fruits of those labours.
It's hard work. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, also out there these days, there is that much information. It's information overload. So you can't decipher it all. And that's where you need to rely on the specialists in each field to help you get to where you want to go.
As a bit of an example of the guys that are on your client base, Sam, what sort of community organisations are they involved in? Is it Rotary? Is it the local footy team? Is it the local surf team? Is it a golf team? Are the guys who are cycling in the Lycra every week, are they doing it for the Ks, or are they doing it for the networks?
There's absolutely everything out there. Some of the groups they've been a part of, like you said, local footy team, kids footy team, cycling groups, surf lifesaving, local council members. Definitely a wide range of community sports. The reason they're doing it, to be honest, I think they just enjoy being around people. Yes, you do get to meet people and they're interesting, and You can learn a lot from different people with different skill sets, but I think it's just the social side.
And then if things happen in that way, those business connections or the hot tips or the referrals to the right sort of people to trust, they naturally come along over the barbecue on a Saturday afternoon anyway.
Correct. Yeah, I think people do business with people who they like. If I don't like you, I'm not going to do business with you. So
isn't that interesting, Sam, that from an outside perspective, it can be very easy to think that business at the top end is a very transactional and impersonal situation. But what I find more and more these days, going through meeting new people, especially in this industry, and I'm sure you'll understand as you'll see as well, is so many of these people actually spend time together outside of business. And business is business, but they met beforehand and they became friends, or through business, they then became friends and then sustained that relationship, grew that relationship, referred those relationships on to other people through those networks from just being a good person and doing the right thing by people. So many of those relationships are just human relationships.
And that's what it comes down to. I think you can get pretty far if you're a decent bloke these days. Just do the right thing. That's my motto, is just do the right thing for everyone you meet.
And have something to offer, obviously.
Yeah, and obviously, you can't just be a good bloke. You got to be able to offer something as well. People like being around you. They like dealing with you. Naturally, the business is going to come from that.
We're all human beings at whatever income level or social status level that people believe that someone's at the end of the day. We're all just people trying to make friends and enjoy their family time and 40 hours a week or more in business.
That's it, and just treat people with respect. I think you go a long way.
Sam, thanks again for the chat. Interesting one, but
different.
Yeah, but it was worth just talking about that little insight of you into what's going on at that top end of the property purchasing market, as well as that success level, what it takes to be buying $5, $6, $7 million houses on a weekly basis.
Thanks, Trent.
Cheers.
See ya.
Okay, suburb spotlight time. We are talking about a very small suburb in the western parts of town. It is Daglish. And for that conversation, we have Suzy Costanzo from Space Realty in. Suzy, thank you very much for coming in.
Absolute pleasure, Trent.
Hey, Suzy, this is as I said, one of the smallest suburbs in Perth. Can you explain to us on a north, south, east, west sort of bounding, where is this place?
It's a little tiny suburb. There's only probably there's a population of 1,200, which doesn't mean 1,200 dwellings, 1,200 people, and it's bounded by Hay Street, Railway Road, and Selby Street. So there is 500 actual properties in the suburb, but that includes a lot of apartments. So
I guess that means not too many properties selling every year.
Well, this past 12 months, 11 properties sold. In past years, there was only one or maybe two properties selling. But the uptake is getting a lot faster and a lot quicker because of its location.
And there's, I guess, a bit more density coming in, a few more houses to sell.
The thing that Daglish offers are your 800, 900 square metre blocks. I mean, Subiaco and Shenton Park are just across the railway. Your average block size in Shenton Park's 420. Average block size in Subi's 500, whereas Daglish you're looking at 800, 900 square metres.
Why do you think that is? Is it just being protected in a zoning space, or is it really just so small that the council hasn't really bothered to look at it?
I think that, look, personally, I think probably in time past the name may have had something to do with it, that people preferred to live in Subiaco and Shenton Park. Because the reality is that Daglish offers everything that those sought-after suburbs are in demand.
I'd say Daglish is still a pretty sought-after suburb.
Well, it's a lot of people don't know where it is. Similarly with Jolimont, I'll say I've got a property here. Where's that? It's got its own train station, Shenton College catchment, Jolimont Primary School. It's near the hospitals. It's right there, 4 minutes from the CBD.
Do you think that it could be characterised as a post-war suburb? Are most of the houses in need of some love, or are we seeing a lot of renewal coming through?
Absolutely. There's a lot of character homes in Daglish, but there's also a lot of ugly 80s homes. Ugly in as much as that was the fashion at the time, but they're built really well.
Okay. If they're built well, are a lot of people just renovating and extending them?
Yeah. It's very much a suburb where there's an aged population, people who've been there 30, 40 years, but there's a lot of new couples coming into the suburb now, and they are renovating, rendering, your 80s facades, and a lot of them are demolishing and building as well.
Okay, so you sort of referenced it there. It's an ageing population. Is that the demographic of people selling from you is people that have been there since the start,
Yeah.
single homeowner properties?
Absolutely. The problem is that all my owners who've lived there for so many years want to stay in the area, which is perfect for the new subdivision opportunities because of the Cliff Sadlier Park, which is in the centre of Daglish. That was actually named after a war veteran. I actually sold the house he lived in on Stubbs Terrace last month. He was decorated in the war for receiving the Victoria Cross. And Henry Daglish, after which the suburb is named, was also the first Labor Premier in Western Australia.
Well, that's a fantastic piece of information, Suzy, because I'm sitting back thinking, where does that name come from?
Yeah.
Okay, so another Premier.
Yes, that's right. But we're very lucky. I mean, Jollymont Primary School Principal Barbara Ifler she runs a great school, really a community primary school in the city. That's what I like to call it. It still has that family feel. And of course, Mike Morgan at Shenton College. Everyone wants to go to Shenton College.
Do you therefore have some young families popping in? So if you're selling 70, 80-year-old people's houses, do you find you've got some up-and-coming executive late 30s, early 40s couples with their young kids getting in for the catchment zones?
Absolutely. A lot of people coming into, Shenton Park, Subiaco, Daglish, Jollymont, come from North Perth, Mount Lawley. They're looking to come for either the private schools or the Shenton College for your high school. But also, I'll let you into a little secret, there's a huge medical fraternity in Daglish. I've got a list of people I sell to, surgeons and doctors, and because they want to be close to the hospitals as well.
Well, there are a few hospitals around town. When you're in Daglish, it's probably one of the closer large block suburbs connected to all of this. That's where, most of our hospitals are within a couple of kilometres of Daglish.
Yeah, you've got St John of God, you've got the New Children's Hospital, you've got Charlie's. So, I'm keeping a little list of all the surgeons. In fact, I sold a property a few months ago to a hip surgeon, and I said to him, Justin, when I need a hip replacement, I want to go to the top of the list.
Going. Yeah. Well, I think that's probably good to understand, because if you're maybe even a developer or someone, a small-scale builder, you would be able to recognise that, look, I could probably buy in a land value property here in Daglish, and there wouldn't be a shortage of people who could afford a couple of nice custom luxury side-by-side homes maybe that I could put up in the appropriate
absolutely.
area.
With the changing in zoning, it's a really good opportunity to build a luxury downsizer property, because again, people from the other western suburbs coming off your big blocks, they want somewhere with amenity, and Daglish offers that, plus a beautiful park. So you are close to the hospitals, the train, all that sort of thing, but you're still in a city.
So that would lead me into my next question, Suzy. It would be about that variation in housing types. When I think straight up to a small number of properties that hasn't had too much rezoning in that time and the blocks are large, I can't imagine there are many options for apartments or flats or units that have come up in the last few decades.
No, there is a section of Daglish from Stubbs Terrace down to Troy Terrace where there are existing apartments and old apartment blocks, and obviously they're going to stay because you need all the owners a percentage of the owners to agree to sell the whole lot, prime land. But similarly, like in Mount Street, where you've got the old apartment buildings, fabulous location as far as land goes, but then you can't sell the whole lots at the same time.
Yeah, hopefully with these new strata laws coming in, there's a bit more of an opportunity to renew these flats, because I would expect that, especially in a suburb like Daglish, there's prime opportunity to be able to come in and just provide so much more amenity, especially to the downsizer demographic who don't really want to live in those old flats but still want to stay in the suburb in a smaller opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Daglish is definitely an evolving suburb. My advice is get in now, because what it does have to offer as far as being so close to the city, 10 minutes to the beach as well, there's a lot of opportunity there.
Let's talk about price points. How cheap can I buy in Daglish if I am coming on a budget? Can I get in for anywhere close to the median house price, or is it really a prime?
Well, apartment-wise, you can pick up an apartment for 250,000, an old apartment. You can pick up a new apartment, given the apartment market at the present time, for 450. As far as housing goes, the median price is just over the mil, which is
a big jump.
A big jump, but certainly achievable considering the cost of median pricing in other western suburbs. And there's other western suburbs with very much higher median pricing, but doesn't offer train station amenity, walking distance to shops. Rockaby Road's only a 5-minute walk from Daglish. We've got the new development at Ontario Quarter, where the old Shenton rehab site was. So it's very much, as I said, an evolving suburb.
That walk score is improving.
Oh, absolutely.
So if I'm looking to come in for that young family lifestyle, am I paying 7 figures?
For a character home, Daglish, you're probably looking about 1.3, 1.4 mil mark.
Nothing to sneeze at.
No.
And finally, Suzy, how expensive can it get? What are we talking here?
That's it. High ones.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this is just fully appointed house. Block is still livable. These are those opportunities where you've got those hit surgeons and doctors and whatnot coming in for that younger, hip, but obviously more well-off lifestyle.
And interestingly, a few years ago, I actually was talking to a couple, and they said they want a big home on a small block. And at that time, I said, why? And they said, well, Suzy, we both work. We've got kids. When we're not working, we're taking the kids to sport. We're running them around. When we're home, we don't want to be in the garden. And that's now, a few years later, everyone wants that. Everyone's time poor these days.
We've touched on development opportunities. Let's get a bit more specific. So where are they and what are they?
There are a number of blocks in Daglish which are large enough to be subdivided, but there is also subdivision opportunities that have not been approved yet, but, along the railway line, similarly with Shenton Park and Subiaco along the railway line.
So coming through with this rezoning that's hitting the newspapers every second week, part of that includes the Daglish
That's
structure
correct.
plan.
Yeah.
I think, look, the way that it needs to happen in these areas, especially in the western suburbs where it's an ageing population, they need downsizer opportunities, is if you're going to do the rezoning, it should be at higher density next to your main arteries, your train stations, and nowhere else. Not throughout the whole suburb, but very specific locations where people don't need to have 2 cars anymore. They can pop straight onto the train or the bus or walk 5 minutes into supermarkets.
Yeah, and I think there is a lot of furore with regard to the rezoning, but it's a slow thing. It's a progress thing, and I think if it's done mindfully and builds are done respectfully, it doesn't have to change the character of a suburb.
So most properties right now where there is subdivision potential, it's just 21 property into 2. Is it a house behind a house? Is it a side-by-side? Is it a mixture of both? What are you seeing?
Mixture of both. It's preferable to have side-by-side from a sale point of view, but then to have one behind the other. I sold one in Nickel Street in Daglish at the beginning of the year, and some people do prefer the privacy of having one behind. At the end of the day, with regard to this particular suburb, it's all about the location and its proximity to amenity.
Are there premium streets in Daglish?
Obviously park front, so you're looking at Northmore Street, Woolno Street, but then Willsmore Street's also quite sought after because it's elevated. So from the backyards of Willsmore Street, you have park views.
Okay. Any views of the city at all at any part of Daglish?
If you have a second story, yes, you do have views of the city, but that obviously for new builds. There are, a few houses that are double story currently. There's one on the corner of Willsmore and Woolno, and they do have city views. So, yeah.
It's about picking your location.
That's correct.
All right, final question here. It's the median house price question, as always. Suzy Costanzo, what is it?
Median house price just over the mil, or to be exact, $1,012,000.
And if you had $1,012,000 in your handbag this morning, what would you be going out and buying in Daglish with that cash?
I'd be buying a block to build.
Just a straight build?
Straight build.
And what would you be building?
And I would be building a 4x2 with a master and ensuite on the ground floor, which would cater to either a downsizer or a family.
Okay, wow. So really what you were saying before is that smaller living but building up, and I'm guessing a very high spec.
Yes.
Suzy Costanzo, thank you very much for coming in, chatting Daglish. It's for such a small suburb, there's so much information to get through.
Oh,
Let's
absolutely.
hope there's some more renewal and more volume opportunities coming through there, and gives people, I guess, an understanding of just a different option to the usual Subiaco, Shenton Park chatter. somewhere like Daglish or even, Jolimont down the road as well. These places do have a place for that family living in the western suburbs.
Absolutely. Thanks, Trent.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Perth Property Show. If you've only just joined the conversation, you can catch up by heading over to our website, perthpropertyshow.com.au, subscribing to the podcast, or joining our Facebook page. Don't forget to tune in next Monday at 7 a.m. for more expert insights, local analysis, and suburb spotlights. Happy hunting!